I am 71 years old, and my son just walked into the courtroom smiling. Smiling. Julian abandoned me when I was 62 years old at a Greyhound bus station in a different state. No money, no phone, no way to get back home. My younger brother Arthur had to rescue me 18 hours later. Arthur died a year ago and left me $8 million. Now Julian is here, suing me for that inheritance. And he is smiling. His wife Brooke is smiling too. She is wearing an emerald green dress, towering high heels, and a pearl necklace that glitters under the fluorescent lights. The two of them look confident, relaxed, and victorious before we even begin. They think they are going to win. They think those $8 million are already theirs. They do not know who is going to walk through that side door in 30 seconds. They do not know that my brother Arthur planned every single detail before he died. They cannot imagine that their smiles are going to disappear faster than they took to form. I am sitting at the dark wood table in courtroom number 3. My hands rest on the polished surface, steady, without trembling. The air conditioning hums over my head with that constant sound that seems to amplify every breath. It smells of old paper, that cheap disinfectant found in government offices, and tension accumulated in the cream-colored walls. My lawyer Mark is at my side. He is in his 50s. He wears an impeccable gray suit and a serious expression that inspires confidence. He squeezes my shoulder once, for barely a second, and returns to concentrating on his documents. He opens his briefcase. The sound of metal against metal breaks the silence. He pulls out a thick, bulging manila folder. He places it in front of him with deliberate care. Across the room, 15 feet away, Julian adjusts the knot of his tie. He is 42 years old. His hair is slicked back with gel. He wears a black suit that probably cost more than 3 months of my rent. He leans toward Brooke and whispers something in her ear. She lets out a giggle. A giggle. In a courtroom where they are suing me for millions. Brooke looks at me. Her eyes travel over my beige dress, my comfortable shoes, and my gray hair pulled back in a simple bun. There is contempt in her gaze. Pure contempt. Then she says something to Julian, and the two of them smile again. They are enjoying this. They think I am a foolish old woman who is going to lose everything. Julian notices the folder that Mark just placed on the table. I see how his eyes follow it. His smile wavers for a fraction of a second, but Brooke touches his hand, and he recovers that arrogant expression. She whispers something to him. He nods. They return to laughing quietly. Their lawyer, a thin man with glasses and a brown suit, checks some papers. He looks bored, confident. This must be routine for him. Another family fighting over money. Another easy case. Or so he thinks. The bailiff, a burly man in an impeccable uniform, stands by the side door. I look at the clock on the wall. 11:47 in the morning. The second hand moves with small jumps. Tick, tick, tick. Every second feels like an eternity. Julian settles into his chair. He stretches his legs. He is relaxed. Completely relaxed. Brooke takes a tiny mirror out of her purse and checks her makeup. She touches up her coral-colored lipstick. She closes the mirror with a snap. She looks at me again and smiles. A poisonous smile. A smile that says, "We already won." Mark writes something in his notebook. His pen slides over the paper with precise movements. He does not look up. He does not seem worried. That reassures me. After 3 months of working together, I have learned to read his gestures. And right now, his calm is deliberate. Calculated, he is waiting for something. The bailiff straightens his posture. He takes a step forward. The movement is subtle but significant. Julian does not notice. He is looking at his phone under the table, trying to be discreet. Brooke examines her nails, perfectly manicured, blood-red color. Then the bailiff takes a breath. His chest expands, and when he speaks, his voice echoes in every corner of the room. "Please rise for the Honorable Judge Harrison Miller." The sound of chairs scraping fills the space. I stand up. Mark stands up. On the other side, Brooke stands up quickly, adjusting her dress. But Julian has remained motionless. Completely motionless. His eyes are fixed on the side door. His phone slips from his hand and hits the floor with a thud. The door opens. The judge enters with his black robe billowing behind him. He is about 65 years old. Silver hair, perfectly combed, a severe face carved by decades of experience. His shoes echo against the wooden floor with absolute authority. And Julian has turned into a pillar of salt. His face, which a second ago was tan and confident, is now a pale wax mask. His eyes are wide open like saucers, his mouth hangs open, his hands are visibly trembling. Brooke notices it. She turns toward him, confused, and whispers, "What is wrong?" But her voice carries a sharp edge of panic. Julian does not respond. He cannot. He is paralyzed, looking at the judge with absolute horror. Judge Harrison walks toward his elevated bench. His movements are measured, elegant, powerful. He does not look at anyone yet. He simply sits down, adjusts his robe, and places his hands on the desk. Then his eyes travel across the room, slowly, very slowly. When his gaze reaches Julian, it stops, only for a second. But that second contains entire universes. I see how Julian's fingers grip the edge of the table. His knuckles are white. He is trembling. My son, who 5 minutes ago was smiling with insufferable arrogance, is now trembling. "You may be seated," says the judge. His voice is deep and controlled, the kind of voice that does not need to shout to be obeyed. I sit down slowly. Mark does too. Brooke practically collapses into her chair, but Julian takes a second longer. His legs do not respond. When he finally sits, he does so with rigidity, every muscle tense. The judge opens the folder in front of him. The sound of paper is extraordinarily loud in the silence. I can hear Julian's rapid breathing from where I am. I can see the sweat forming on his forehead, despite the air conditioning freezing the room. "Case number 74,321, says Judge Harrison. His voice fills every corner. Julian Sterling versus Eleanor Sterling. Lawsuit for contestation of will and inheritance claim. Every word falls like a hammer. Brooke has her eyes fixed on Julian, trying to understand what is happening. Her husband is falling apart, and she does not understand why. The judge looks up. His eyes find mine for the first time. There is something in his gaze, a flash, a shared memory. It is almost imperceptible, but it is there. "Mrs. Eleanor Sterling," says the judge, and his tone changes. It becomes softer, almost reverent. "I understand that you are being sued by your son regarding the inheritance left to you by your brother, Mr. Arthur Sterling, who passed away a year ago." "Yes, Your Honor," I respond. My voice comes out firm, clear, without a tremor. The judge nods slowly. His fingers drum once on the folder. "And I understand that your son alleges that you manipulated your brother to receive $8 million, excluding him from the family inheritance. That is his allegation, Your Honor, an allegation that is completely false." Brooke straightens up. She recovers some confidence. She probably thinks this is going to be a normal process, that they are going to present their arguments and win. But Julian knows something she does not. I can see it in his terrified eyes. Judge Harrison opens the folder completely. He pulls out a document, then another, then a third. He places them in front of him with deliberate movements. The sound of paper against wood is like the ticking of a bomb. "Before we begin," says the judge, and there is something sharp in his tone now, "I want both parties to know that I have reviewed this case exhaustively." Brooke smiles. She still smiles. She thinks that is good. Julian knows it is not. "Mrs. Sterling," says Judge Harrison, looking directly at me, "I understand your son abandoned you at a Greyhound bus station 9 years ago. Is that correct?" The air changes instantly. It becomes dense, heavy. Brooke stops smiling. Her mouth opens, confused. The thin lawyer leans forward. "Yes, Your Honor, at 62 years old, in a station in a different state, without money, without a phone, without a way to return. And it was her brother Arthur who rescued her." "Yes, Your Honor." The judge nods. Then his eyes shift toward Julian. The gaze is a laser, a scalpel cutting through flesh. "Mr. Sterling, do you have something to say?" Julian opens his mouth. He closes it. He opens it again. He looks like a fish desperate for oxygen. Brooke digs her nails into his arm. "Me? There was a misunderstanding, Your Honor," he stammers. His voice sounds small, pathetic. "A misunderstanding," repeats the judge. There is ice in every syllable. And then I understand everything. Judge Harrison is not just any judge. This is not a coincidence. My brother Arthur planned everything. I want to ask you something. Would you forgive a son who abandoned you, who left you stranded, and who returns 9 years later demanding money? Think about what you would do. The judge takes the first document. He holds it up. I can see Arthur's handwriting, that perfect calligraphy that was so much his own. Julian sees it too, and in his eyes, I see real fear. Let us proceed, says Judge Harrison. And the room becomes the stage where justice is going to speak. I need you to go back with me. 9 years ago, when I was 62 years old and still believed my son loved me. It was March, a Tuesday morning. I remember the exact month because the magnolias were blooming on my street, those white flowers that always reminded me of my mother. Julian arrived at my house without warning. That was already strange. I had not seen him for months. Months in which my calls went straight to voicemail. Months in which my messages went unanswered. But that day, he appeared. He rang the doorbell at 9 o'clock in the morning. When I opened the door, he was standing there with that smile I remembered from when he was a child. That smile that used to melt my heart. He brought flowers, pink roses. My favorite. Mom, he said, I missed you so much. And I believed him. My God. I believed every word. I let him in. I made coffee. The way he liked it, with 2 spoonfuls of sugar and a splash of milk. We sat at the kitchen table, that old wooden table where I had spent so many nights helping him with his homework when he was little. Mom, I have a wonderful idea, he said. His eyes were shining. I want you to come live with us. Brooke and I bought a new house in the suburbs. It has a perfect room for you, with a view of the garden. You are going to love it. My heart filled with hope, with that foolish hope that mothers have who want to believe they still mean something to their children. Really? I asked. My voice sounded small, vulnerable. Brooke agrees. It was her idea, he lied. Now I know. But at that moment I believed it. He said you are part of the family, that we need you close. We spent all morning talking. He told me about the house, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a modern kitchen. It was 6 hours away, in another state. But that did not matter. I was going to be with my son. I was going to have a family again. The only problem, he said, and his tone changed slightly, is that I need you to sell this house first, to help with the moving expenses. You know, the U-Haul, new furniture. And Brooke wants to remodel your room. Make it perfect for you. Something in my stomach twisted. A silent alarm. But I ignored it. I wanted to believe. I needed to believe. I do not know, Julian. This house is all I have. Mom. He took my hands. His hands were warm, soft. You are going to live with us. You are not going to need this house. And the money is going to help us a lot. All of us. Our family. Our family. Those 2 words were my downfall. 2 weeks later, I signed the papers. I sold the house where I had lived for 30 years. The house where Julian had taken his first steps, where he had celebrated his birthdays, where he had cried when his father left us. Everything was gone, for $58,000 that I deposited directly into Julian's account, for the new house, he told me, for our future together. The day of the move came quickly, too quickly. Julian appeared with a small pickup truck. Not a moving truck. A pickup. Just bring the essentials, Mom. Clothes, documents. In the new house, there is already furniture. You do not need any of this. I left everything behind. My furniture, my framed photos, Julian's old toys that I had kept in boxes in the garage. Everything. I got into that truck with a worn brown suitcase full of clothes and a bag with my important documents. We drove for hours. Julian was quiet. He answered the phone every 15 minutes. He spoke in a low voice. I looked out the window, watching my city disappear in the rearview mirror. Is it much further? I asked after 4 hours. No, Mom. Almost there. But we kept driving. 5 hours, 6 hours. The landscape changed completely. I did not recognize anything anymore. The road signs had names of cities I had never heard of. Finally, Julian pulled off the highway. I saw a sign, Central Bus Terminal. My stomach tightened. That alarm I had ignored weeks ago was now screaming. Why are we at a bus station? I asked. I need to make a quick stop, he said. His voice sounded different. Cold. Wait for me here. He parked in the loading zone. He got out of the truck. He opened the back door. He took out my suitcase. He placed it on the sidewalk. Julian, what are you doing? Get out, Mom. What? I said, get out. Get out. My legs were shaking. The air smelled of burnt diesel and bus exhaust. It was cold. A damp cold that got into the bones. The sky was gray, threatening rain. Julian, I do not understand. He got back into the truck. He closed the door. He rolled down the window just enough for his voice to come out. I am not taking you to any house, Mom. There is no house. Brooke does not want you. I do not want you. You are a burden. You have always been one. The money from your house is already used. You are of no use anymore. The world stopped. Completely. Every sound became distant, distorted. My ears buzzed. Julian, please, do not do this. It is already done. I have no money. I have no phone. I do not know this place. Not my problem. And he drove off. He simply drove off. I watched the truck pull away, how it turned the corner, how it disappeared. I stood there, on the sidewalk of that filthy terminal, with my old suitcase at my feet and the world collapsing around me. The terminal was dirty. There were dark stains on the floor that I did not want to identify. Smell of urine mixed with diesel. People passed by me without looking at me. Families with children, men with backpacks, women carrying shopping bags. No one saw me. I was invisible. I sat on a plastic bench. It was cold, hard, cracked. A crack pinched my thigh, but I did not move. I could not move. My hands were shaking. My chest hurt. Every breath was a conscious effort. Hours passed. I do not know how many. I saw buses leave. I saw buses arrive. I saw people hugging. I saw people saying goodbye. I saw families reunite. And I was still there, alone, abandoned. A man approached. He smelled of alcohol and stale sweat. You need help, Grandma? His smile was not kind. I clutched my suitcase and shook my head. He walked away laughing. It got dark. The lights in the terminal flickered, yellow, sickly. The benches emptied. Only a few of us remained. A young woman with a sleeping baby. An old man snoring in a corner. Me. I was cold. So cold. My cream-colored sweater was not enough. My hands were frozen. My feet numb. I thought about calling someone, but I did not have a phone. I thought about asking for help, but from whom? The police? And tell them what? That my son abandoned me? That I was so foolish to trust him? Then I remembered. Arthur. My younger brother. We did not talk much. He lived his life. I lived mine. But he was family. He was blood. I found a public phone. One of those old ones. With the receiver hanging from a metal cord. I dialed his number. I remembered it by heart even though I had not used it for years. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Hello, Arthur. My voice broke. It is Eleanor. I need help. Eleanor, where are you? Arthur's voice sounded alarmed. Awake. Even though it was almost 11 o'clock at night, at a bus station. I do not know where. Julian left me here. He abandoned me. The words came out broken, choked by the knot in my throat. Wait. Breathe. Tell me what you see around you. I looked through the tears. A sign. It says, Central Transportation Terminal, City of. I cannot read well. It is blurry. Is there anyone there? An employee. There is a window. It is closed, but there is a man cleaning the floor. Go to him. Ask him what city you are in. I will stay on the line. I walked toward the man. My legs barely supported me. He was young, maybe 30 years old, in a gray uniform and wearing headphones. I touched his shoulder. He started. Excuse me, what city are we in? He looked at me strangely. Riverside. Are you okay, ma'am? I ran back to the phone. Riverside. He says, it is Riverside. Riverside? That is 6 hours from here. Eleanor, listen to me carefully. I am coming for you, but it is going to take time. Stay in a place with light, where there are people. Do not move. Do you hear me? Yes. Do you have money? To eat something? No, Julian. He took everything. A silence. Long, heavy. Then I heard something I had never heard in my brother's voice. Pure rage. That son of a bitch. Sorry, that damn man. Hold on, sister. I am leaving now. He hung up. I stood there, clutching the dead receiver against my ear, feeling the tears slide down my cheeks. The cleaning man was still looking at me. He approached. You have problems? I nodded. I could not speak. Look, I finish my shift in 20 minutes, but there is a coffee machine over there. It is not much, but it is hot, and there is a safer waiting area near the offices. Go there. It is better than this hallway. He pointed to a door with a sign that said, Waiting Room. I nodded again. I took my suitcase. Every step was a battle against exhaustion. The waiting room was small. 4 metal benches bolted to the floor. An old television hanging in the corner, broadcasting news without sound, better lit than the main hallway. I sat on the bench closest to the door. I hugged my suitcase against my chest. The hours dragged by. I watched the clock on the wall move with a torturous slowness. 11:30, midnight, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. Every minute felt like an hour, every hour like an eternity. I was hungry, a hunger that hurt, that twisted my stomach in tight knots. I was thirsty. My throat was dry, scratchy, but more than anything, I was afraid. Afraid that Arthur would not arrive, afraid of staying there forever, afraid that my own son had destroyed me so easily. I thought of Julian, in the child he had been, in how I carried him when he cried as a baby, in how I sang to him so he would sleep, in the nights I spent awake when he had a fever, putting cold cloths on his forehead, praying for him to get better. In the years I worked 2 jobs to pay for his college, in every sacrifice I made, thinking I was building something, that I was raising someone who would love me, who would take care of me when I was old. And here I was, old, alone, abandoned in a filthy terminal 6 hours from everything I knew. At 2 o'clock in the morning, a young couple entered the waiting room. She was pregnant, her belly huge under her orange sweater. He carried 2 suitcases and looked exhausted. They sat on the bench across from mine. She rested her head on his shoulder. He kissed her on the forehead. I saw them, and something inside me broke a little more. At 3 o'clock in the morning, a security guard passed by. He looked at me. You are waiting for a bus, ma'am? I am waiting for my brother. He nodded and continued his round. He did not ask me to leave. Thank God, he did not ask me to leave. At 5:15 in the morning, when the dawn light began to filter through the dirty windows of the terminal, I heard quick footsteps. Someone running. I looked up. It was Arthur, my younger brother. 60 years old, gray hair messy, rumpled shirt, red eyes from not sleeping. He was breathing hard, as if he had run all the way. Eleanor. I stood up. My legs faltered. He caught me before I fell. His arms surrounded me. Strong, safe, real. And there, in that horrible terminal, I collapsed. I cried against his chest as I had not cried in decades, deep sobs that came from some dark and broken place inside me. It is over. I am here now. It passed. His voice was trembling. He was crying too. I could feel his tears falling in my hair. That damn man, that damn son of yours, I swear to God he is going to pay for this. I have nowhere to go, I whispered through sobs. I sold my house. I lost everything. You are coming with me, to my house. You are going to live with me. I cannot ask you for that. You are not asking for anything. I am offering it to you. You are my sister, my only sister. He pulled me back a bit, enough to look me in the eyes. His were bloodshot, full of fury and pain. How could he do this to you? How? I had no answer. I do not have one even now. Arthur took my suitcase. He put his arm around my shoulders. We walked toward the exit. The dawn light was pink, soft, completely opposite to the darkness of the night that had just passed. His car was parked outside, a silver sedan, old but well cared for. He helped me in. He closed the door carefully. He went around the car. He sat in the driver's seat, but he did not start it. He stayed there, with his hands on the wheel, looking straight ahead. Forgive me, he said finally. Forgive you for what? For not having been more present. For not having realized that Julian was that he was like that. For not having protected you. You have nothing to apologize for. You came for me. That is more than anyone has ever done." He started the car. We drove in silence for the first hour. I looked out the window, watching the landscape go by. Houses, trees, open fields. Everything so normal, so ordinary, while my life had been shattered. "Are you hungry?" Arthur asked. "Very." We stopped at a roadside diner. One of those 24-hour places with vinyl seats and plastic tablecloths. Arthur ordered for both of us. Scrambled eggs, bacon, toast, coffee. Lots of coffee. I ate like I had not eaten in years. Every bite tasted like life, like hope, like a future that minutes before I did not believe I had. "Thank you," I said when we finished. "Do not thank me. Never thank me for doing what is right." He took my hand over the table. "You are going to be fine, Eleanor. I promise you, you are going to be fine." And at that moment, sitting in that cheap restaurant with my younger brother holding my hand, I believed him. For the first time in 18 hours, I breathed without it hurting. I did not know then what Arthur would do for me in the following 9 years. I did not know that he would give me a home, dignity, peace. I did not know that he was planning something big, something that would change everything. But at that moment, the only thing I knew was that I was not alone. And that was enough. Arthur's house surprised me. It was not what I expected. For years I had assumed my brother lived modestly. He never spoke about money. He never bragged. He drove that old sedan. He wore simple clothes. But when we arrived at his house that morning, after 6 hours of driving, I was speechless. It was a huge property. Not an ostentatious mansion, but a large, elegant house, surrounded by perfectly manicured gardens. 2 floors, large windows, stone entrance, automatic gate that opened when Arthur pressed a button on his keychain. "Do you live here?" I asked, incredulous. "Yes, just me. Too much space for one man, honestly." He parked in front of the main entrance. "That is why I am glad you are here. Arthur, I thought that I was poor?" He laughed. A soft laugh, without resentment. "I know. I never said otherwise. It never seemed important to me." He helped me out. He opened the front door. The interior was beautiful. Light wood floors, tasteful furniture, but not exaggerated. Ivory walls with discreet paintings. It smelled clean, like lavender, like peace. "There are 3 bedrooms upstairs," he said, guiding me toward the stairs. "You can choose whichever one you want. I use the one at the back. The other 2 have been empty for years." We went up. He showed me the first room. Spacious, with windows overlooking the back garden. Large bed with a light brown comforter. Spacious closet. Private bathroom with tub and separate showers. "This one," I said, "if you do not mind. It is yours." He placed my suitcase by the bed. "Rest. Sleep. I am going to prepare something to eat for later. When you wake up, we will talk. Arthur." He stopped at the door. He turned. "Thank you. Really, I do not know how I am going to pay you for this. You are not going to pay me anything. You are my sister. This is your home now, for as long as you want to be here." He paused. "And Eleanor, about Julian. He is never going to hurt you again. I promise you." He left and closed the door softly. I sat on the bed. It was comfortable, infinitely comfortable after those hard benches at the terminal. I lay on the comforter, still dressed, and closed my eyes. I woke up 8 hours later. The afternoon light came in golden through the windows. For a moment I did not know where I was. Then everything came back. Julian, the abandonment, Arthur, this house. I got up. I found the bathroom. I washed my face with cold water. I saw myself in the mirror. I was 62 years old and looked as if I were 80. Deep, dark circles, pale skin, swollen eyes from so much crying, but I was alive. I was safe. I went down the stairs. I followed the sound of soft music, classical piano. I found Arthur in the kitchen. He was cooking. The kitchen was modern, spacious, full of natural light. It smelled of tomato, basil, garlic. "Spaghetti," he said without turning. "You still like it?" "I love it." "Sit down." Almost ready. I sat on one of the high stools by the kitchen counter. I watched him cook. His movements were sure, practiced. He added salt. He tasted the sauce. He adjusted the heat. "How long have you lived here?" I asked. 15 years. I bought it when my business took off." "Your business?" He served 2 plates. He passed me one. He sat across from me with the other. "Import and export. I started small 30 years ago. It grew more than I expected. Much more. I did not know anything about this. There was no reason for you to know. You had your life. I had mine." He took a bite. "But now things are different. Now you are here. And I want you to know something important." He looked at me directly. His eyes were serious. "I have money, Eleanor. Quite a bit of money. And when I die, everything is going to be yours." I almost choked. "What?" "No. Arthur, you cannot. It is already decided. My will is made, reviewed by lawyers, signed, sealed. Everything I have is yours. The house, the accounts, the investments, the business, everything. But I do not want your money. I just want—" "What do you want?" The question stopped me. What did I want? After everything that had happened, after losing everything, "I want to have a home," I said finally. "I want to not be afraid. I want to matter to someone. You already have all of that, and you are always going to have it." He got up. He went to a drawer. He pulled out some papers. He placed them in front of me. "This is a copy of my will. Read it whenever you want, when you are ready. But I need you to know that you are protected. That whatever happens, you are going to be fine." I touched the papers without opening them. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you are my sister. Because Mom asked me to take care of you before she died and I failed. I was not there when Julian did this to you. But I am here now, and I am going to make sure you are never vulnerable again." The following 9 years were the best of my life. Arthur and I became inseparable. We had breakfast together every morning. He taught me about his business. I taught him to cook better. We traveled together, small trips, nothing ostentatious. To the beach, to the mountains, to picturesque towns where no one knew us. He never mentioned Julian. I did not either. It was as if my son had ceased to exist. And in a way, he had. Julian never called, never wrote, not even to ask if I had survived. The abandonment was absolute. But I was fine. Better than fine. Arthur gave me dignity. He gave me purpose. He gave me a reason to wake up every morning without that crushing weight of feeling useless. "You are the best company I have ever had," he told me one night during dinner. We were already 71 and 70 years old. "I do not know what I would have done without you these years. I am the one who does not know what I would have done without you." "Then we are even." He smiled. But there was something in his eyes, something I could not identify then. Now I know it was concern. He was sick. He had been sick for months, and he never told me anything. The heart attack came without warning. One morning in October, I was in the garden pruning the roses. I heard a dull thud from the house. I ran inside. Arthur was on the kitchen floor. His lips were purple, his eyes open but not seeing. "Arthur?" I knelt beside him. I took his hand. It was cold. "No, no, no, please no." I called 911. They arrived in 12 minutes. They put him in the ambulance. I went in the back, holding his hand, praying, bargaining with God. He died in the hospital 2 hours later. 70 years old. My brother, my savior, my only real family. The funeral was small. Arthur had been discreet in life. Business partners I did not know came. Some friends. A priest who spoke about kindness and generosity. I sat in the front row, in a simple black dress, holding a soaked handkerchief, feeling as my world emptied again. Julian did not appear, not even when I sent him a message through Facebook, not even to say goodbye to the uncle he never really knew. A week later, Arthur's lawyer summoned me to his office. His name was Mark, 50 years old, serious, professional. He shook my hand firmly. "Mrs. Sterling, I am very sorry for your loss. Arthur was a good man, the best. He asked me to handle his will personally, to make sure everything was fulfilled to the letter. He opened a thick folder. I am ready." I nodded. I was not ready, but I nodded anyway. Mark began to read. Legal terms, clauses. But then he got to the central point. and the world stopped. To my sister Eleanor Sterling, I leave the entirety of my assets, the house, the bank accounts, the investments, the business. Everything valued at approximately $8 million. $8 million. My brother had $8 million, and he left them all to me. $8 million, I repeated. My voice sounded hollow, distant. It cannot be. It is correct, Mrs. Sterling. Mark turned the page. Your brother was very successful, and very careful with his money. He invested it well. He made it grow for decades. But I lived with him. He never mentioned any of this. He was discreet. As he told me, he did not want money to change his relationship with you. Mark looked at me over his glasses. But there is something else. Something important you need to hear. He pulled out another document. This one was handwritten. I recognized Arthur's handwriting immediately. That perfect, slanted calligraphy. Your brother left specific instructions, a special clause. Mark began to read. If any member of my family who abandoned my sister Eleanor attempts to claim this inheritance, it must be completely denied to them. This inheritance is for Eleanor and only for Eleanor. She suffered abandonment. She deserves dignity. She deserves everything I have. Tears rolled down my cheeks. Even dead, Arthur was protecting me. There is more, Mark continued. Your brother documented everything that happened to you. The abandonment at the terminal, the calls he made investigating your son's whereabouts, the contact attempts that were ignored. Everything is recorded here, with dates, with details. Why would he do that? Because he knew Julian. He knew he would eventually appear. When he smelled the money, Mark closed the folder. And he was right. I lived 6 months in peace. 6 months in Arthur's house, now my house, processing everything. The money was there, but I barely touched it. I did not need much. The house was paid off. I had enough to live comfortably. The rest remained in the accounts, growing, waiting, until one afternoon the doorbell rang. It was a Tuesday. I was preparing tea in the kitchen, the same herbal tea that Arthur and I used to have together in the afternoons. I opened the door, and there was Julian, 9 years older, 42 years old now, thinner, with premature gray at the temples, gray suit, nervous smile. Hi, Mom. The word hit me like a slap. Mom. After 9 years of silence, after abandoning me at that terminal, after stealing the money from my house, after destroying my life, what do you want? My voice came out cold, colder than I ever thought it could sound. I heard about Uncle Arthur. I am very sorry. You did not come to the funeral. I was busy. But I thought of you. Really. He ran his hand through his hair, that nervous gesture he had made since he was a child. Can I come in? No. He was surprised. He clearly expected me to give in, to be the weak mother I always was. Mom, please, we need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. I know I made mistakes. I know. But I am your son. We are family. Family. The word made me laugh. A bitter laugh that came from the depths of my chest. Family? You know what family is? You, who left me stranded at a terminal. Who stole everything from me. Who disappeared for 9 years. I was confused. Brooke pressured me. I did not want to. I do not care. Leave. I heard Uncle Arthur left you money. There it was. The real reason. Quite a bit of money. And, well, I am your son. Legally, I have a right to part of that family inheritance. You have a right to nothing. Mom, do not be unfair. Brooke and I are going through difficulties. I lost my job. We have debts. We need help. You should have thought about that before abandoning me. That was years ago. You are going to cling to that forever. His tone changed. The kind mask cracked. That money should be shared. I am your only son, and you treated me like trash. Now leave before I call the police. You cannot talk to me like that. I am your son. You are a stranger. A stranger who hurt me a lot. Leave. I closed the door. My hands were shaking. My heart was beating wildly. I heard him knocking, shouting, threatening. Finally, he left. But I knew he was not finished. This was just beginning. 2 weeks later, Mark called me. Mrs. Sterling, I need you to come to my office. It is urgent. I arrived in an hour. Mark looked serious, worried. He had papers scattered on his desk. "Your son is suing you." I felt the floor move under my feet. "What?" "Julian Sterling filed a formal lawsuit. He alleges that you manipulated your brother Arthur, that you convinced him to change his will, that you exercised undue influence over a sick man. He is demanding half of the inheritance. That is a lie. Arthur made that will years before he died. I did not even know how much money he had. I know, and we are going to prove it. But I need to warn you, Mrs. Sterling, this is going to be difficult. Julian hired expensive lawyers. They are using aggressive tactics." "What kind of tactics?" "They are spreading rumors, saying you are a manipulator, that you took advantage of your brother, that you isolated him from his family. They are building a narrative." Rage grew inside me, a rage I had never felt. Pure, burning, justified. "What do I need to do?" "Fight, with everything we have." Mark opened a new folder. "But here is the good news. Your brother anticipated everything. He has letters, documents, proof that the will was made with full mental lucidity, proof of the abandonment you suffered. Arthur documented everything. He was a very intelligent man. We can win. We can destroy them." The following months were hell. Julian and Brooke launched a full campaign against me. They talked to the neighbors. They posted vague things on social media. They hinted that I was a greedy old woman who had stolen a fortune. Brooke appeared at my door 3 times, each time more aggressive. The third time she shouted so loudly that the neighbors called the police. She cried in front of the officers. She said I was cruel, that I denied help to my own son, that I was a bad mother. Julian's lawyers requested access to Arthur's medical records. They wanted to prove he was senile, that he did not know what he was doing. Mark blocked them with counter-lawsuits. Every move of theirs was answered with our solid evidence. But the worst was the letter. It arrived on a Saturday morning. No return address, just my name on a white envelope. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet, with words written in letters cut out from magazines. Like in the movies, "Give back the money or you will regret it." "Old thief." I called Mark. He called the police. They made a report, but could not trace anything. No fingerprints, no proof. But I knew who had sent it. I knew it in my bones. "They are desperate," Mark said. "And when people are desperate, they make mistakes." "What kind of mistakes?" "The kind of mistakes that destroy them in court." The trial date was set, 3 months after the initial lawsuit. In that time, Mark worked tirelessly. He gathered every document, every email, every bank record, every testimony. "We have something big," he told me a week before the trial. His eyes were shining. "I found emails between Julian and Brooke, from 9 years ago, the day they abandoned you. What do they say?" He showed me his computer screen. I read the messages. Every word was a dagger. Julian to Brooke. "I already left her. Mission accomplished." Brooke to Julian. "Was she crying?" Julian to Brooke. "Like a baby. But she is no longer our problem. Now to enjoy the money from the house." Brooke to Julian. "I love you. You are brilliant. That old woman will never bother us again." I felt nauseated, vomit rising in my throat. It was not an impulse. It was not confusion. It was planned, premeditated, cruel. "This destroys them," Mark said. "This proves intentional abandonment, fraud, financial abuse of an elderly adult. Julian is not only going to lose the case, he is going to face criminal consequences." "I want him to suffer," I said. The words came out before I could stop them. "I want him to feel what I felt. He is going to feel it. I promise you." And now we are here. In this courtroom, with Judge Harrison Miller looking at Julian with eyes that promised justice, with Brooke beginning to understand that they underestimated everything, with the evidence ready to explode in their faces. Julian's smile has finally been erased, and mine is just beginning. Judge Harrison takes the first document from his pile. He holds it up. The silence in the room is so dense that I can hear my own breathing. Julian is petrified. Brooke has her hands clenched in her lap, white knuckles. "Before hearing the arguments of both parties," says the judge, his voice filling every corner of the room, "I want to clarify something. I knew Arthur Sterling personally, Brooke gasps. Julian closes his eyes. Their lawyer straightens up abruptly in his seat. Arthur and I were friends for 20 years. We played golf together. We shared dinners. He was a brilliant man, meticulous, of unshakable principles. Judge Harrison looks at me. And he talked to me a lot about you, Mrs. Sterling, about what your son did to you, about how he rescued you from that terminal. Julian's lawyer stands up. Your Honor, with all due respect, this represents a conflict of interest. If you personally knew the deceased, you should recuse yourself. Sit down, Mr. Torres. The judge's voice is a whip. I reviewed this case before accepting it. There is no conflict. My friendship with Mr. Sterling does not prevent me from being objective about the legal facts. And the facts are very clear. The lawyer sits down, defeated before beginning. Now, the judge continues. Let us review the allegations. Mr. Torres, your client alleges that Mrs. Sterling manipulated her brother. Correct. Yes, Your Honor. We allege undue influence over an elderly adult in a vulnerable state. Vulnerable state. The judge raises an eyebrow. Do you have medical evidence that Mr. Sterling was mentally or emotionally compromised when he made his will? Torres stammers. Well, Your Honor, we are requesting access to his full medical records too. I already reviewed those records, with prior authorization. Mr. Sterling was in perfect use of his mental faculties. In fact, his will was made and signed 10 years ago, long before his death, long before any illness. I see how the color drains from Julian's face. Brooke whispers something to him urgently, but he does not respond. He is in shock, Mr. Mark, says the judge, turning toward my lawyer. I understand you have relevant evidence to present. Yes, Your Honor. Mark stands up. He moves with the confidence of someone who knows he has already won. I would like to begin with a timeline. On March 23rd, 9 years ago, Julian Sterling convinced his mother to sell her house. The $58,000 were deposited directly into Mr. Sterling's bank account. Mark projects bank statements on the big screen. The numbers are there. Clear, irrefutable. 2 weeks later, on April 6th, Julian Sterling took his mother in his vehicle to the city of Riverside. He left her at the Central Greyhound bus terminal, without money, without a phone, without means to return. That is not proven, Torres interrupts weakly. Oh, but it is. Mark smiles. It is a sharp, dangerous smile. I have recordings from the security cameras of that terminal. From April 6th, at 4:37 in the afternoon, he presses another button. The screen changes, and there it is. Black and white video, grainy but perfectly clear. Julian parking, Julian taking out my suitcase, Julian leaving me on the sidewalk, Julian getting into his truck, Julian driving away. The image shows me standing there, alone, lost, old, abandoned. I look so small on that screen, so fragile. I hear a muffled sob. It is mine. I cannot help it. Mark squeezes my shoulder gently. The video clearly shows intentional abandonment, Mark continues. But there is more, much more. He pulls out another document. These are emails exchanged between Julian Sterling and his wife Brooke Sterling, legally obtained through court orders during the discovery phase. He begins to read. His voice is clear, without emotion, letting the words speak for themselves. Julian to Brooke, April 6th, 5 to 10 in the afternoon. I already left her. Mission accomplished. Brooke shrinks into her seat. Her face is ash-colored. Brooke to Julian. Was she crying? Julian to Brooke. Like a baby. But she is no longer our problem. Now to enjoy the money from the house. Every word falls like a bomb. The judge has his jaw tight. I can see the contained fury in his eyes. Brooke to Julian. I love you. You are brilliant. That old woman will never bother us again. The silence that follows is deafening. Julian has his head in his hands. Brooke is crying. Tears of panic, not of regret. Your Honor, Mark says. These emails prove that the abandonment was premeditated. It was a calculated act of financial and emotional abuse against an elderly adult. My client was defrauded of $58,000 and left to her fate. This is taken out of context, Torres stammers. But his voice has no conviction. Context. Judge Harrison looks at him with incredulity. What context justifies abandoning your 62-year-old mother at a bus station in another city after stealing her life savings? Torres has no answer. There is more evidence, Your Honor, Mark continues. During the next 9 years, Julian Sterling did not attempt to contact his mother even once. Not a call, not a message, nothing. Until he found out about the inheritance left by Arthur Sterling. How did he find out about the inheritance? The judge asks. Through a social media post made by a mutual acquaintance. 3 days later, he appeared at my client's house demanding money. When he was rejected, he filed this frivolous lawsuit. Mark turns toward Julian. And now he comes here, to this room, alleging he has a right to $4 million of an inheritance that specifically excludes him due to his atrocious behavior. Julian looks up, his eyes are red. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. But I am her son. That has to mean something. Mean something. My voice emerges before I can stop it. I stand up. Mark tries to stop me, but I let go. You want to talk about what it means to be a son? The judge looks at me. Mrs. Sterling, please. Your Honor, with your permission. I need to say this. The judge nods slowly. Go ahead. I turn toward Julian. I can finally say everything I have kept for 9 years. I spent 18 hours in that terminal. 18 hours wondering if I was going to die there, if someone was going to hurt me, if I would ever see a familiar face again. I was hungry. I was cold. I was afraid. And you were at home, with my money, laughing with your wife about how brilliant you had been. Tears roll down my cheeks, but my voice does not tremble. I carried you when you were a baby. I sang to you when you cried. I worked 2 jobs to pay for your college. I sacrificed everything to give you a better life, and you paid me by leaving me stranded like trash. Mom, please. Julian is crying now, real tears. I am sorry. I really am sorry. Now you are sorry? After 9 years? After there are $8 million at stake? I shake my head. You are not sorry. You are sorry you were caught. I turn toward the judge. My brother Arthur rescued me that night. He gave me a home. He gave me dignity. He treated me like family. And when he died, he left me everything because he knew exactly who my son was. He knew Julian would appear, and he made sure I was protected. I sit down. My legs are shaking. Mark passes me a glass of water. I take it with trembling hands. Judge Harrison takes another document. I have here a letter written by Arthur Sterling, addressed to this court, sealed and dated 2 years ago. He delivered it to me personally, with instructions to open it only if his will was contested. He breaks the seal. He opens the letter. He begins to read. If you are reading this, it means my nephew Julian is attempting to take from my sister what I left her. Julian is a man without honor. He abandoned his mother in the cruelest way. He left her with nothing. If it had not been for me, Eleanor would have died in that terminal or something worse. Julian does not deserve a single cent. Everything I have is for my sister. She deserves it. She needs it. And I trust that the law will protect my will and her future. The silence is absolute. Brooke is sobbing openly now. Julian has his face buried in his hands. Judge Harrison folds the letter with care. His movements are deliberate, almost ceremonial. He places it on his desk and looks directly at Julian. The weight of that gaze makes my son shrink further into his seat. Mr. Sterling, says the judge, and his voice has lost any trace of professional neutrality. Now there is pure judgment in every syllable. In my 30 years as a judge, I have seen many unpleasant cases, families destroyed by greed, children who betray their parents. But this surpasses everything I have witnessed. Julian attempts to speak, but the voice does not come out, only a strangled sound. Do you have anything to say in your defense? Anything that can justify what you did to your mother? The judge waits. 5 seconds. 10. Nothing. I was under a lot of pressure, Julian finally manages to say. Brooke and I had debts. I did not think clearly. It was a mistake. A mistake, the judge leans forward. Mistakes are accidents, involuntary slips. What you did was premeditated, calculated, cruel. You planned to steal from your mother and abandon her. Then you disappeared for 9 years. And now you return demanding millions. That is not a mistake. That is character. Brooke stands up suddenly. Your Honor, with all due respect, my husband was following my advice. I pressured him. The fault is mine, not his. Mrs. Sterling, sit down. The judge's voice is thunder. You are not helping your husband. You are confirming that there was a conspiracy between the two of you. Brooke collapses in her chair, understanding her mistake too late. Mark stands up again. Your Honor, I have additional evidence that I consider relevant to this case. Go ahead, Counselor. After my client rejected giving money to her son, he began a campaign of harassment, threatening calls, messages on social media, even an anonymous letter with threats. Mark pulls out an evidence bag. Inside is the white envelope with the cutout letters. This letter arrived at my client's house 2 months ago. The judge examines the letter through the plastic bag. It says, "Give back the money or you will regret it. Old thief." Yes, Your Honor, a police report was filed, but it could not be traced. However, we have circumstantial evidence that points to Mr. Sterling and his wife. What kind of evidence? The envelope was purchased at a specific office supply store. We obtained security video from that store. Brooke Sterling appears buying identical envelopes 3 days before this letter arrived. Mark projects the video. There is Brooke, clear as day, at the counter of the store, buying a pack of white envelopes. This is just coincidence, Brooke shouts. I buy envelopes all the time. And the cutout letters? Asks the judge. Do you also cut out letters from magazines all the time? Brooke does not respond. Her face is pure guilt. There is more, Your Honor, Mark continues. We have testimonies from neighbors. Mrs. Brooke Sterling appeared at my client's house on 3 different occasions. On the 3rd occasion, she shouted threats loud enough for the neighbors to call the police. I have the police reports here. He passes the documents to the judge. Harrison reviews them, his expression increasingly severe. We also have screenshots of social media posts where the Sterlings hint that my client is a manipulator, that she stole a fortune, that she is a bad mother, all designed to damage her reputation and pressure her to give in. The judge looks at Julian and Brooke. You tried to intimidate Mrs. Sterling into giving you money. The silence is response enough. Mr. Torres, says the judge, turning toward Julian's lawyer, does your client have any real evidence to back up his allegations of manipulation? Something more than conjectures and wishes? Torres stands up slowly. He looks defeated. Your Honor, we have presented. That is to say, our argument is based on. You have nothing. The judge is not asking. He is affirming. We do not have physical evidence of manipulation. No, Your Honor. But common sense suggests. Common sense is not evidence. Feelings are not evidence. What we have here are irrefutable facts. Julian Sterling committed fraud against his mother. He abandoned her, he threatened her, and now he attempts to steal an inheritance that legally and morally belongs to her. The judge clasps his hands. I see no basis whatsoever for this lawsuit. None. Julian finally speaks, his voice desperate. But Your Honor, I am her son. There has to be something. Some right, some legal obligation she has toward me. Obligation. The judge almost laughs. It is a bitter laugh, without humor. Mr. Sterling, you waived any obligation your mother could have toward you when you left her at that terminal. Children do not have an automatic right to their parents' inheritances, and they definitely do not have a right to the inheritances of uncles they never knew or respected. But the money is too much. $8 million for one person alone. She does not need it all. She could share something. And there it is. The true nature of Julian, naked for everyone to see. He is not asking for justice. He is asking for alms, begging for crumbs while disguised as an aggrieved son. What my client needs or does not need is none of your business, Mark says coldly. That money is hers, to use it as she pleases, to keep it, to donate it, to burn it if she so wishes. You have no voice or vote in that. Judge Harrison takes his gavel. The sound when he lifts it makes everyone in the room hold their breath. I have heard enough. This lawsuit is frivolous, malicious, and is based on pure greed. It has no legal merit whatsoever. He looks at Julian. Mr. Sterling, your lawsuit is rejected in its entirety. Mrs. Eleanor Sterling retains the entirety of her inheritance without any restriction. Julian sobs. A pathetic, broken sound. Brooke hugs him, but she is also crying. Furthermore, the judge continues, and his tone becomes even more severe. I found that this lawsuit was filed in bad faith. Therefore, I order that Julian Sterling and Brooke Sterling pay the legal costs of Mrs. Eleanor Sterling. All costs, including attorney fees. Mark smiles. That adds up to tens of thousands of dollars. And there is more. For the harassment, threats, and defamation campaign against Mrs. Sterling, I order that the Sterlings pay compensatory damages of $50,000 and an additional $100,000 in punitive damages. Brooke screams, "We do not have that money." "Then you will have to find a way to get it," the judge responds without sympathy. "Perhaps by selling your house, or your car, or by working, which is what you should have done, instead of trying to live off the money of a mother you abandoned." The gavel falls. The sound echoes like a shot. Case closed. Julian is collapsed over the table, sobbing without control. Brooke screams about injustice, about how this is not fair, about how they are going to appeal, but her voice sounds hollow, desperate, defeated. I stand up. My legs are firm now, firmer than they have been in years. Mark helps me gather my things. The judge looks at me one last time before getting up. "Mrs. Sterling," he says, and his voice is soft now. "Kind. Arthur was my friend. He was a good man, and he loved you very much. I am sure he is at peace now, knowing you are protected. Thank you, Your Honor, for everything." He nods and leaves the room. The bailiff announces that everyone can leave. I walk toward the exit. I pass by the table where Julian is still crying. Brooke looks at me with pure hate, but I do not care. That hate cannot touch me. Not anymore. In the hallway, Mark stops me. "We did it. We won everything." "Yes, we did. How do you feel?" I take a moment to consider the question. How do I feel? I expected to feel triumph, joy, satisfied revenge. But what I feel is simpler, deeper. I feel free, I say finally. For the first time in 9 years, I feel completely free. Mark smiles. "Your brother would be proud." "I know." We walk out of the courthouse together. The afternoon sun is bright, warm on my skin. The air smells clean, new, of possibilities. Behind us, I hear Brooke screaming at Julian in the hallway, blaming him, he blaming her. The alliance that kept them united against me is now devouring itself. It is poetic, in a way. I get into Mark's car. He drives off. As we pull away from the courthouse, I look in the rearview mirror. I see Julian leaving the building, hunched over, devastated. Brooke walks several steps behind him, screaming something at him that I cannot hear, and I feel nothing. Neither pity, nor satisfaction, nor residual love. Just nothing. He is a stranger now, a stranger who once shared my blood, but who never shared my heart. "Where should I take you?" Mark asks. "Home, to my house." And for the first time in my whole life, when I say those words, there is no fear in them. Only certainty. Only peace. 2 weeks after the trial, Mark calls me. His voice sounds different. There is something in his tone I cannot identify. Concern? Surprise? "Mrs. Sterling, I need you to come to my office. There are developments you should know." I arrive an hour later. His secretary lets me in immediately. Mark is behind his desk, surrounded by papers and folders. He motions for me to sit. "What happened?" I ask. "Julian and Brooke are trying to sell their house. Quickly, desperately." Mark pushes some documents toward me. "They put it on the market 3 days ago. Below market value. They need money to pay the judgment." "Good. Let them pay. But there is more." I received a call from a private investigator. Apparently, Brooke has been contacting local media outlets. She wants to sell her story, to paint herself as the victim. I feel the rage starting to grow in my chest again. "Victim. She says you are a manipulative old woman who stole a family fortune, that her husband is the true betrayed son. She is looking to generate public sympathy and media pressure. Can she do that? Technically, yes. But if she lies, if she defames, we can sue her again. For defamation. And this time, with a prior judgment against her, it will be even easier to win." Mark leans forward. "But there is something else you need to know. something we discovered during an additional investigation. What? Julian tried to have you legally declared dead 7 years ago. The world stops. What? 2 years after abandoning you, Julian filed a petition in court to have you declared legally deceased. He alleged that you had disappeared without a trace, that there were no signs of life, that you had probably died, but I was alive, living with Arthur. We know, but Julian did not know where you were. He never really tried to look for you. He simply assumed, or wanted to assume, that you had died. Mark pulls out another document. And do you know why he wanted to have you declared dead? To keep something of mine. Exactly. You had a small life insurance policy. $25,000. Not much. But for someone desperate like Julian, it was money. The petition was denied because he did not present sufficient evidence of your death. But he tried. He really tried. I am speechless. My own son not only abandoned me, he wanted to have me declared dead to collect insurance, to benefit from my supposed death. There are records, court documents, all on file. We found it during our post-trial investigation. Mark looks at me with compassion. I thought you should know. Arthur knew this. Yes. According to his private notes, he discovered the petition when investigating Julian. It was part of his decision to protect you legally, to make sure Julian could never touch you. A wave of gratitude toward my brother floods me. Even dead, he continues to protect me. He continues to anticipate Julian's moves. What do we do with this information? I ask. We keep it. If Brooke continues with her media campaign, we use it. We show not only that Julian abandoned you, but that he tried to have you declared dead to steal your insurance. That will destroy any victim narrative they try to build. I nod slowly. Okay, let us do it. The following days are strange. I live in Arthur's house, now my house, surrounded by peace but aware of the storm that Julian and Brooke are trying to create outside. I receive calls from unknown numbers that I do not answer. I see strange movement near my property. A car parked for hours on the street. Probably journalists or private investigators hired by Brooke, but I stand firm. I do not talk to anyone. I do not open the door. Mark advised me to keep total silence. Let them sink themselves, he said. People who lie always eventually contradict themselves. 3 weeks after the trial, Brooke achieves what she wanted. A second-rate local newspaper publishes her story. The headline says, "Woman accuses mother-in-law of stealing family fortune." The article is poisonous. Brooke paints herself as a devoted wife trying to help her husband recover what legally belongs to him. She says, I manipulated Arthur when he was sick, that I isolated him from his family, that I changed his will at the last minute. All lies. Blatant lies. But the article has comments. Many comments. And to my surprise, most are not on her side. If the judge ruled against them, there must be a reason. This smells like pure greed. Why do they not mention that the son abandoned her? I call Mark. I saw the article. I did too. And I already prepared our response. His voice sounds satisfied. We are going to send a statement to the newspaper, with all the facts, the abandonment, the evidence from the trial, and yes, the petition to have you declared dead. All documented, all verifiable. Are you sure? Completely. Brooke opened this door. Now we are going to walk through it. The statement is published 2 days later. It is devastating. Mark includes extracts of the emails between Julian and Brooke, screenshots of the petition to have me declared dead, direct quotes from the judge during the verdict, everything backed by real documents. The newspaper is forced to publish a correction, an apology. The journalist who wrote the original article is publicly reprimanded for not verifying the facts. The comments are now different. This woman, Brooke, is a monster. How can a son do that to his mother? The old woman deserves every cent. And more. Brooke tries to respond. She posts on social media, defending herself, attacking me. But every post only makes things worse. People investigate. They find the public records of the trial. They read the transcripts. They see the evidence. Julian remains silent. He does not defend his wife. He does not defend himself. He simply disappears from social media, from public life. He hides. Mark calls me one night. Have you seen the news? No. What happened? Brooke and Julian are getting a divorce. I stay in silence for a moment. What? She filed the papers this morning. She alleges irreconcilable differences. But according to my sources, the truth is that she is trying to protect her assets. If she divorces Julian before the judgment is fully executed, she can argue that the judgment money is his debt, not hers. Can she do that? She can try. But I already filed objections. The judgment was against both. She cannot escape by divorcing. Brooke is abandoning him. Exactly, like he abandoned you. It is poetic, do you not think? It is more than poetic. It is justice, real justice, tangible, visible. Weeks pass. Julian's house is finally sold, for much less than it was worth. The money goes directly to paying part of the judgment. But it is not enough. They still owe more, much more. I receive a check from Mark, $150,000. The compensatory and punitive damages, plus legal costs. I look at it for a long time. It is just paper, numbers on a check. But it represents something bigger. It represents recognition, validation, justice. I do not need it. I have $8 million. But I deposit it anyway, because it is not about the money. It is about the principle. Mark visits me one afternoon. He brings coffee and pastries. We sit in the garden of the house, under the warm afternoon sun. How do you feel? He asks. Strange, I admit. I won. Completely. But I do not feel what I thought I would feel. What did you think you would feel? Satisfaction. Joy. Accomplished revenge. I take a sip of coffee, but I only feel tired and sad. Sad that we came to this. That my son became this. It is normal to feel that way. You are not vengeful by nature. You only wanted justice. And you got it. Arthur knew this would happen. He knew everything. He was a very intelligent man, and he loved you deeply. Mark finishes his coffee. What are you going to do now? With the money? With your life? It is a good question. What am I going to do? I am 71 years old. More money than I could ever spend. A beautiful house, total freedom, and no real plan. I do not know, I say honestly, but I have time to figure it out. Mark smiles. Yes, you have all the time in the world. That night, alone in the house, I walk through the rooms, the house that Arthur built, the house that is now mine. I run my hand over the furniture, over the walls, feeling my brother's presence in every corner. We did it, I whisper into the air. We won, just as you said we would. There is no answer, of course, but I do not need one. I know he is at peace. I know I did the right thing. I know Julian finally paid for what he did. And tomorrow, when I wake up, I am going to start thinking about what to do with the rest of my life. A life that finally, completely, is mine. 6 months have passed since the trial. It is an October morning, and I am at the cemetery, standing in front of Arthur's grave. I bring fresh flowers, white carnations, his favorite, and I bring something else. Something I have carried with me all this time. My old suitcase. That brown suitcase, worn, full of scratches and stains. The same suitcase I carried when Julian abandoned me at that terminal 9 years ago. The same one Arthur took when he rescued me. I place it by the headstone. I run my fingers over the rough surface. This object has been a witness to my worst moment and my salvation. It has been the symbol of my vulnerability and my survival. Thank you, brother, I say in a low voice, for everything, for rescuing me, for loving me, for protecting me even after your death. The wind moves the leaves of the nearby trees. The sound is soft, comforting, almost like a response. Julian lost everything. His house, his wife, his reputation, his dignity. I pause. I do not feel joy about that, only sadness. Sadness that he chose this path, that he became this. But the sadness does not consume me. Not anymore. I have learned to carry it without it destroying me. I am going to do something good with your money, something that would make you proud. I smile. I am going to create a shelter for abandoned elderly adults, for people like me who were left alone. I am going to give them what you gave me. A home, dignity, a second chance. The idea came to me weeks ago. Mark is helping me with the legal aspects. We already found a property, an old building that we can remodel. It will have 20 rooms, a community kitchen, a garden, space for people to live with respect. I am going to call it Arthur's Haven, in honor of my brother, so that his name lives associated with kindness, not with sadness. I take the old suitcase. I lift it. It no longer weighs as it did before. It no longer represents fear or pain. Now it represents strength, resilience, survival. I am going to keep it, I say, as a reminder, not of what Julian did to me, but of what you did for me, that there is always hope. There is always someone willing to lend a hand. I place the fresh flowers in the vase on the grave. I stay there a few more minutes, in silence, feeling the peace of the place. When I finally leave, I do not look back. I no longer need to. In the car, on the way back home, I think of Julian. According to Mark, he is living in a small apartment. He works in a warehouse. Brooke married again, quickly, to an older man who has money. I do not know if Julian is really sorry or only regrets being caught. Part of me, a small and weak part, wants to forgive him. It wants to believe there is still something of the child I raised in that broken man. But the stronger part, the part that survived, knows that forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. I can let him go without letting him in. He made his decisions. Now he lives with the consequences. I arrive home, my house. I enter and the silence greets me. But it is not a lonely silence. It is a peaceful silence, full of possibilities. I go to the kitchen. I prepare tea, the same herbal tea that Arthur and I used to share. I sit in the same place where he used to sit. And for a moment, I can almost feel his presence. The phone rings. It is Mark. Mrs. Sterling. I have news. The property for Arthur's Haven was approved. We can begin the remodeling next month. That is wonderful. And there is something else. We received 3 applications from people interested in being residents. Elderly people who were abandoned by their families, who have nowhere to go. My heart expands. Tell them yes. Tell them there is space for them, that they are going to be safe. I will do it. It is going to change their lives. Do you know? What you are doing, Arthur changed my life. I am only returning the favor. We hang up. I stay sitting in the kitchen, with my steaming tea, looking out the window at the garden. The flowers Arthur planted continue to grow, beautiful, resilient, full of life. I think about everything that happened, the abandonment, the pain, the betrayal. But I also think about the rescue, in the love, in justice, in the peace that I finally found. I cannot change what Julian did to me. I cannot recover those years of pain, but I can choose what to do with what I have now. And I choose to build something good, something that helps, something that heals. The old suitcase is in the living room. I see it from where I am sitting. It is no longer a reminder of trauma. It is a trophy, a medal of survival, proof that you can be abandoned, betrayed, shattered, and still get up, still find purpose, still live with dignity. I finish my tea. I get up. I have things to do, plans to review, people to help, a life to live. 71 years old. The age when many only wait for the end. But I am beginning, really beginning, for the first time, without fear, without chains, without the weight of broken expectations. I walk toward my desk. I open my laptop. I begin to write emails. To architects, to social workers, to lawyers. Every email is a step toward Arthur's Haven, toward my brother's legacy, toward my own redemption. And somewhere, in some small and sad apartment, Julian lives with his decisions, with his lies, with the truth of who he really is. But that is no longer my problem. It is no longer my weight to carry. He chose selfishness. I choose love. He chose greed. I choose generosity. He chose to destroy. I choose to build. And in the end, when it is my turn to depart from this world, I am not going to leave behind bitterness or revenge. I am going to leave behind a refuge, a place where broken people can heal, where abandoned elderly can find family. I am going to leave behind hope, and that, more than any court sentence, more than any amount of money, is the true victory. The garden door opens with the breeze. The sun comes in golden and warm. I hear birds singing in the trees that Arthur planted, and I smile, because I am home, finally, completely, at home. and no one can ever take that away from me.